What's up, everyone? I'm Jenny.
And I'm Jessie.
You're listening to Milkshakes and Ghosts.
This episode is brought to you by...
Tired of the same old coffee routine? Craving a cup of paradise? Introducing Kona Coffee House LV. Bring the magic of Kona Coffee straight to you, wherever you are.
Kona Coffee House LV uses only the finest 100% organic Hawaiian Kona coffee beans, made by perfection by Sammy Scrumptious herself. These gluten-free and preservative-free beans are a rare specialty, offering a unique and unforgettable taste experience.
No need to wait in line. Kona Coffee House LV is mobile, delivering a taste of paradise. Book Kona Coffee today for corporate events, parties, venues, and so much more.
Follow Kona Coffee on Instagram at Kona Coffee House LV for updates on upcoming events. Visit their website at konacopel.com to learn more and schedule your Kona Coffee experience today. Don't miss out on this exclusive opportunity to savor the world's finest coffee.
It's my favorite type of episode. It's Listener Tales.
That's right. It's Listener Tales today. Woo-hoo!
Listener Tales is brought to you by all you milkshake drinkers and ghost enthusiasts.
Now, we received 512 emails. Yes, you heard me right. However, that was just in 3 days of announcing we were doing listener stories.
We love you all so much and appreciate all the stories. But thank goodness we didn't have to go through all of them. Just looking at the computer screen made my eyes hurt.
Now, our wonderful assistant, Jack, was literally drowning in emails. And we appreciate that. He always does so much for us.
Yeah, I would have thrown him a life raft and tried to help, but seriously, my eyes hurt from just looking at that amount of emails on our computer screen.
Some wonderful followers reached out to me on Instagram and TikTok. I was fortunate enough to speak with them regarding their stories that they wanted to send in, which was really cool because I don't ever really get the opportunity to do that since Jack is the one that handles that.
Did you read any of the stories?
Honestly, I only got a chance to read one letter. It was one of the people I spoke personally with on Instagram, and I loved it, so I definitely told Jack about it.
Yeah, every single time we're always reading a story, we have no idea on what we're going to talk about because Jack picks out all our stories.
Jack is amazing. I'm so glad we have an assistant now. So yeah, like I said before, it was only one story I had a chance to read. I have no idea what Jack picked for us today.
Jack, if we don't thank you enough, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what we would do without you.
Honestly, gosh, man, we're lucky.
So before we jump into it, Mom, is that a pretzel stick sticking out of your cup?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, what in the world are you drinking today?
I am drinking a salted caramel pretzel milkshake. That's why there's a pretzel sticking out of my cup.
That's just weird.
It's surprisingly good. It's a mixture of sugar and salt, so it's yummy.
Besides the obvious pretzel that's sticking out of your drink, what's in it?
This was very simple to make. It's just 3 scoops of vanilla ice cream, milk, caramel sauce, and pretzels, of course, because that's what you're seeing.
Now, was this your own monstrous creation, or did you get the recipe online?
I can say I got this recipe from delish.com. This is not something I created on my own. I will link it in the show notes in case anyone is interested in making the same recipe.
My milkshake is better.
Your milkshake just looks really colorful. Now, what's in your milkshake?
Okay, so I had a little help making this from my older brother, but I did most of the work myself. I made a dairy-free cotton candy milkshake.
Your brother actually helped you with this? I'm shocked. I'm looking at your cup right now. All I see is colors and what looks like a whole ton of sugar. Oh, dear goodness. Dare I ask what's in it?
This recipe was literally an overnight one. My brother helped me make the vanilla ganache. For that, we used some cream, vanilla, which we boiled. Then, we poured it over the white chocolate and left it overnight in the refrigerator to thicken. Before we came in here to do this episode today, I finished the rest of it. I mixed in a blender vanilla ice cream, milk, and a teaspoon of vanilla. When it was all done, I decorated the top with pixie sticks, lollipops, and some cotton candy that our assistant Jack brought with him today. Thanks, Jack, for the cotton candy.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work, but still a whole lot of sugar. I'm a little worried on the outcome of when you finish this drink. Now, did you come up with this recipe all by yourself?
No, I got this recipe from online at How to Cook That. I will link it in the show notes if anyone wants to try this recipe.
More like if anyone wants to have a bellyache.
It is very sugary, but very good. Plus, I have a lot of energy from drinking this.
I'm sure you do. You even look hyper. I know everybody can't see how Jessie looks right now, but she has this hyper stare in her eyes. You just can tell that she had a lot of sugar.
I'm not hyper, I'm hyped up because I know this is going to be a really great episode today. I absolutely love listener tales.
Listener tales are amazing from all you amazing people out there. So let's get spooky with it. Jessie, do you want to go first or should I?
You can go first today.
Alrighty. The first story I have is titled Pandemic Paranormal, and it's by Tony Shapiro. I thought this story was pretty cool because not only is it a real paranormal encounter, but it was also published by American Paranormal Press magazine in last year's international edition.
Very cool, Tony.
The year was 2020, a time when the world seemed to slip into a nightmare. The pandemic had descended upon us, and life as we knew it shifted into something surreal. In all my years, I had never experienced anything so utterly strange. Cities once alive with energy became desolate, ghostly towns, the streets eerily silent. Yet the most heartbreaking aspect of it all was the inability to be with loved ones in their final moments, a sorrow I could have never imagined.
Quarantine was a nightmare during the pandemic. It was so sad not to be with our family and friends.
Yeah, thinking about the pandemic, that was a real tragic time. When it hit, it was just really horrible. Now, Jessie, I did try to make your life as normal as possible, even though the world was literally falling apart.
I'm not gonna lie, you did a really great job with that. I remember you turned our whole house into a school.
I sure did. Girl, my bedroom had become the school library, remember? Half of the kitchen was the art room. Our patio was the gymnasium. And we had like different grade sections throughout our house since I had all of your cousins here for school. It was so much fun. Chaotic, but fun. I loved every moment of it. That was the only good thing about the pandemic, I want to say, is that we were literally all together.
Yeah, that was the only fun thing for me during the pandemic. I had all my cousins here. Like, we quarantined together. I thought you were the coolest mom.
Aw, thank you, baby. I'm glad you feel that way. All right, so we get sidetracked so easy. Every time we're podcasting, we end up going to the left when we're supposed to keep on going down a straight road.
We sure do.
Jumping back into the story now. We had just moved into a beautiful community in the California desert. It seemed perfect, with friendly neighbors and stunning views. The fact that it was directly across the street from a cemetery did not bother me at first. During the daytime, cemeteries have never been an issue. In fact, I visit them often, though I would never visit one at night.
Tony sounds like our kind of people.
Facts. We love cemeteries.
They're peaceful during the day, but I'm in agreement with Tony. I would never visit one at night.
For me, I can't say I would never visit one at night. I'm too curious not to. The only reason why I haven't visited one at night is because I haven't had the opportunity to. Or someone to go with. No offense, Jessie, but I would never take you to a cemetery at night. Just during the day, I feel like that's just too much for you. I would need somebody to go with who's as curious as I am, I guess you could say.
And you're saying I'm not curious enough?
I mean, to a point, but would you want to go to a cemetery then at night?
Yeah, no, you're on your own with that.
I knew it. Okay. So the letter says, But during the pandemic, seeing so many lives lost in such a short time, I couldn't help but feel unsettled. For someone like me, sensitive to the paranormal, it felt as if a storm was brewing. As the pandemic surged, so did the losses. Dozens of lives were claimed each week, and unattended funerals became the norm. I witnessed 3 to 5 burials happening in a single day. It was a relentless cycle of grief, and the atmosphere seemed to grow heavier with each passing week.
That's really sad.
It was during one of those quiet, grief-soaked nights that it happened. The house was still, the only light coming from the dim kitchen fixtures above the island. I was hunched over my computer, trying to focus on my work, when a strange sensation washed over me. My skin prickled and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I glanced at the computer screen, waiting for it to boot up, when something in the reflection caught my eye. A shadowy figure emerged from my husband's office and moved silently across the floor toward the bathroom. It looked so much like him, his height, his profile, that I immediately called out his name. There was no answer.
And this is the part where you run. Like, just get your stuff and get out of there and then burn down the house.
Yeah, the same thing has happened to me, and I didn't run. I clearly remember something very similar happening to me, just like Tony's speaking about.
Mom, I know you too well. There's only 2 things you would do in a situation like that. Ignore it or grab your phone and start recording.
Oh my goodness. Girl, you know me too well. I'm either going to become irritated with a ghost or become curious and try to record it. That's just how I am. Startled, I spun around to face the hallway. The figure stepped into the bathroom, and I waited, expecting it to emerge again, but it didn't. The hallway remained eerily still, and the bathroom door was open, revealing only darkness. A cold chill ran down my spine, leaving goosebumps on my arms and legs. I rushed to our bedroom to find my husband sound asleep. Whoever or whatever I had seen had not been him, and nobody had ever exited the bathroom. That experience unsettled me so deeply that I could not bring myself to work at my desktop computer again. The unease was unbearable. I purchased a laptop, thinking that if I could sit on the couch and face the hallway, I would feel safer. But safety was an illusion.
It always is, in the paranormal world and real life.
Girl, there's so much truth to that. So, 3 days later, as I sat on the couch working my usual after midnight routine, a familiar sensation washed over me. My heart raced. I lifted my gaze from the screen and froze. A small figure, less than 3 feet tall, stood directly in front of the fireplace, staring at me with hollow eyes. Its illuminated form shivered faintly, almost like a hologram. I gasped and blurted out, "Not again!" The figure did not flinch, and in an instant, it turned and walked away. No, disappeared straight into the fireplace.
Nope. Just nope. I'm out of there.
I was shaken to my core, but the encounters were not over yet. A week or 2 later, I was asleep in bed. My husband had fallen asleep in the guest bedroom while reading, leaving me alone for the night. He always kept the hallway light on for me, and the bedroom door was open, just enough to allow the light to filter in. The soft glow filtering in the room, providing plenty of light to see clearly. When I opened my eyes, it was there. The same small entity was peering over the mattress from my husband's side of the bed, as though it was standing on the floor, stretching to look over. Its lifeless gaze sent a wave of terror through me. My breath caught in my throat, and I yelled, "It's time to get up!" as if shouting would drive it away. I pulled the blankets off and scrambled out of bed. I was too paralyzed with fear to do anything more. Eventually, it vanished. I never saw the entity again, but those encounters left me with questions I still cannot answer. Was the overwhelming tragedy surrounding the pandemic somehow amplifying the veil between this world and the next? Was our proximity to the cemetery the cause of these disturbances? Or was it something else entirely? Something darker? Shortly after, we moved to Oklahoma, leaving that chapter behind. Or so I thought. Little did I know that Oklahoma would hold its own ghostly tales. One I will share in time.
Oh my goodness. Now I want to know what happened to Oklahoma.
Same here. Tony, that was an amazing, well-written, creepy story. Honestly, I think since there's so much death and tragedy during the pandemic, your sensitivity to it all went to a whole nother level. And maybe those spirits that were visiting you were something more dark due to the fact of the sorrow and isolation of quarantine. As you said in the beginning of your story, people died alone and funerals were empty due to the pandemic. It was a really horrible time for a lot of people, and I'm sure when they passed, they were upset, scared, and had all different type of negative emotions due to the fact that they were all alone.
The pandemic was truly a horrific time. Many lives were lost. So many people died alone, scared, and sad. It's not something I ever want to go through again.
Same here.
Anyway, I have the next story, and it is from Jacqueline. And yes, I can use her name. Hey, Jenny, Jesse, Jack, and all of your furry babies. Including our furry babies! I wanted to say hello to the whole Milkshakes and Ghost crew, and gush about all of you before I get into my story. It's got the spooks, the laugh, and the oh my gosh! Jenny, I just want to say I think you're an awesome mom to Jesse. The fact that you stopped podcasting with your hubby, I think his name is Teddy. Well, when I have kids one day, I hope to be the kind of mother you are to my children.
Aww, that's so sweet. And yes, Jacqueline, my husband's name is Teddy.
Where is I? Oh, okay. You gave up on your own podcast to start Jesse's. I think that's beautiful, and I love the mother-daughter relationship the two of you have. You can hear the love just listening to the two of you talk with one another. And Jesse, I think you're cute and hilarious. Thank you. I nearly spit out my milkshake every time I hear you say, 19! Mom, was there cavemen in the time of your...
Just read the letter, Jesse. Stop.
19? Oh my gosh, 19? You're pretty old. The two of you always put a smile on my face. And Jack, I have not forgotten about you. You're always very polite and quick to respond to my emails. Thank you for that. And Jesse and Jenny, might I just say that the two of you have the most adorable fur babies. I know one of their names is Cooper, but I'm not sure of the other two.
Yeah, you got that right. Cooper is our Yorkie, which is Jesse's dog. Bella's our pit bull, which is my middle son's dog. And our miniature King Charles Cavalier is my dog, and her name is Fancy.
Yeah, we love all three of our fur babies. Each of the dogs just have a title on who they belong to, because they sleep next to us. My dog, Cooper, is very, 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 very protective over me. Like, if someone comes close to me, he'll bite them.
She's not lying when she says that. I can't even give you a hug, Jesse, without him chasing me through the house. It's ridiculous.
I love my fur baby. Okay, anyway, jumping back in.
Demon dog.
That's not funny. He gonna get you.
He probably is. He's staring at me right now. He's with us.
He's tired. Leave him alone. Anyway, jumping back in, your podcast is what keeps my sanity driving to and from work every day. I'd rather be around the dead than the living. Let's be honest. People are going to be people. My nicer way of saying this is people suck.
Jacqueline, let's be friends. We would totally vibe together.
Why is that so true, though?
It is the truth. People are going to be people, you know? So yeah, let's be friends, Jacqueline.
Okay, so I've gushed enough over the two of you rock stars. On to the story. My grandma Nancy passed away last year. She was a bright soul and very big on family dinners every Sunday. Every Sunday after church, everyone would go to Grandma Nancy's house to help prepare dinner. It was my favorite part of the week. Brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles would gather in the house. If they weren't cooking, they were watching football, playing dominoes, or cards. My grandma was the rock of the family, the center of it all. Grandma Nancy never approved of guys I was interested in dating. I would try to bring them over to meet her during Sunday dinner. If she disapproved, she would whack them over the head with an empty paper towel roll.
She did what? Oh my goodness, that's really funny.
She would say that she thought she saw a fly in their head. I mean, that's a really good excuse. I agree with her. When my brother starts dating, I'm gonna see that girl. I ain't even gonna say it's a fly. I'm gonna just whack her upside her head.
You know, you might be joking right now, but it's really not a joke because I can see you really doing that with how protective you are with your brother.
I should whack her with some. What should I whack her with? Anyway, let's go back to the story. Everyone would just laugh at the gesture. They never told her anything since she was old, and they just thought she was a little crazy. But I knew what it meant. It meant she did not like the guy that I brought for her to me. Her approval was everything. Without it, I wouldn't date whoever was trying to court me. Eventually, she became very ill and had a heart attack and received a pacemaker. She was also diabetic and insulin dependent. However, she didn't let that slow her down. Grandma Nancy continued to push through. Life didn't change. We had the same Sunday dinners after church. One Sunday morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone alarm going off. I sat up in bed and was startled to see my Grandma Nancy sitting on the side of it. "Grandma Nancy?" I called out. She smiled at me. Her bright blue eyes sparkled. Gray strands of hair fell out of the side of her bun. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "It's time for me to be with your granddaddy." As she said those words, she got up from the bed and exited my room. I rubbed my eyes, still shaking off my sleep. I was so confused on how Grandma Nancy got to my home. At her age, she didn't drive. What bothered me even more is what she said. My granddaddy had passed away 5 years ago. Is she losing her sanity? I thought to myself. I ran out my room to find her, but she was nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere in my house. There wasn't a trace of her. My phone suddenly rang. I answered it. It was my mother. She was calling to tell me Grandma Nancy had another heart attack and passed away in her sleep. I argued with my mother, explaining how Grandma Nancy was just at my house. My mother thought I was in denial from grief. Fast forward 3 months from Grandma Nancy's departure, my family and I hadn't had a Sunday family dinner since Grandma Nancy died. On this day in particular, it would have been Grandma Nancy's 80th birthday. I decided to host a Sunday family dinner myself. The family had gathered once again. It was a little chaotic with everyone in my small kitchen trying to cook. Grandma Nancy's home was much bigger. Once again, I brought someone I was interested in dating to come and eat with us and meet my family. As we were eating, out of nowhere, an empty paper towel ring falls and hits my date in the back of his head. Everyone stared in shock, but not me. I started cackling, practically falling out of my chair. Eventually, the rest of my family started to laugh as well. My date was so confused and didn't understand why everyone was laughing. I didn't care to explain it to him. After dinner, I told him goodnight and remained friends with him, but nothing more. To be completely honest, I don't know where the empty paper towel roll came from. I asked my family, but no one knew. Who knows if it was one of the smaller kids playing a prank on us. Whatever it is, I'm taking it as a sign from my Grandma Nancy, and she was right. Another 8 months later, and I met my now husband. After my first date with him, my Grandma Nancy came to visit me once more. She sat on the side of my bed and just smiled, nodding her head. I'm not sure if I was dreaming or not, but it felt real, and I knew that I had found the love of my life. It's now going on a year since I've been married, and I'm a lucky woman. He is the perfect man. I never mentioned how much in love my grandparents were before they both passed. But I hope, for the many years to come, as to have the kind of love that my grandparents had. That was real. If my story is read on your podcast, I will absolutely scream at the top of my lungs. Keep being spooky, ladies, and keep drinking milkshakes. Sincerely, Jacqueline O'Malley.
All right. Get your lungs ready to scream. Go ahead and scream, Jacqueline, because we just read your story.
Woo! You're on a famous podcast!
Woo, woo!
Give yourself a pat on the back, man. Come on.
That was a funny story and heartfelt all at the same time. I really enjoyed that story, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much for writing in, Jacqueline. So this story was amazing. It literally touched my heart.
Jesse, if you ever bring someone home and I don't like him, I'm just going to beat him over the head with an empty paper towel roll like Grandma Nancy did.
Hey, you can't copy her.
I can, and I will. Or how about a sandal? Because I am Hispanic, we get out the chancla. Right. Yeah, I'm just going to get out my chancla. Be like, I don't like him.
When my brother starts dating and he brings a girl home, I'm gonna take my shoe, I'm gonna aim straight for the head, and I will headshot that girl, and she will fall off that chair and might end up in the hospital.
And we don't miss, too, because of our nationality.
And I'm good at aiming.
Lord, that's the truth. All right, the next story I have is from, let me check if I have permission to use your name, and I do. It's from Rory Karras from TMB Paranormal. And the subject line is, my favorite paranormal story. Okay, this is long, but it's 100% true. So, my friend had just moved into a new house. His very new girlfriend, of about 6 months, and her 5 or 6-year-old son had moved in with him. Her son's name is Declan. Her name is Christina. My friend is Craig. Couple of weeks after moving in, Declan starts telling his mom about his granddad visiting him at night. Now, from the description he gave her, it wasn't his granddad. It was Christina's granddad, a man that had basically been her father from a very young age. I don't think her actual father was on the scene at all. Now, Christina's granddad had passed several years before Declan had been born. He had never met this man. Obviously, he was too young to really appreciate a photograph of his great-granddad. In all honesty, Christina was finding it a bit overwhelming and didn't know what to make of it all. She is a believer, but I think she was worried about Declan, obviously. Why is my son saying he's seeing dead people? Kind of a vibe, which is totally understandable. I was around one evening. Craig knows my love for the paranormal and asked Christina to tell me about what had been happening. I could see that Christina was quite uncomfortable talking about it, and Craig was giving me eyes as if to say, she is way more freaked out than she's letting on to you. Using only logic, I'm not psychic in any way, so using logic alone I said, well look, it sounds like it's your granddad. He certainly won't mean you or Declan any harm. Think about it. You've just moved in with the new guy. Your granddad is coming to check on you and Declan, and just make sure he's all good. To make sure Craig is a good guy, and yeah, I don't think I would be worried about it, I said. I think it's pretty cool if I'm honest. Now, as I'm about halfway through this little speech, I get a spine tingle, but times 10. It felt like someone was running a charge cable up and down my spine. I sat on the sofa, directly opposite the door that led through to the kitchen. So the door at my 12 o'clock, Christina is seated on the other sofa at about my 2 o'clock. As I'm talking, I'm getting the spine tingle. I'm looking at Christina, but my eyes keep being pulled back to the empty doorway, leading to the hallway. I can't explain it any other way. I was trying to maintain eye contact with Christina, trying to reassure her, but my eyes kept going back to the doorway until I finally realized what was happening. As I'm talking to Christina and Craig, I just stopped and said, he's in the doorway right now. He's listening to this and laughing. As I said it, my spine felt like someone plugged me into an outlet. The sensation went from times 10 to times 20. I told them what was happening. Craig laughed and said, yeah, probably, haha. Christina was smiling, but you could tell she was still a bit freaked out. But she did seem like she was starting to accept it and not be as worried.
feel bad now as I remember it. I should have asked her his name and spoken to him, but we definitely connected somehow. As I said, I'm not a psychic. Most of that was induced by common sense, but the spine tingle was like nothing else. My eyes being pulled to the empty doorway, I couldn't explain it. It just all felt correct. Anyway, time moves on. Months, maybe even a year or so. I went to visit Craig and Christina. I had visited several times in between, and we had never spoken of the granddad thing again. Christina says to Craig, "Oh, babe, did you tell Rory what happened?" Craig said, "Oh, no, I didn't. You tell him. It's your story." Christina tells me she got invited by her friends to accompany her to see a medium. Now, this was Christina's friend, not Christina. Christina was there for moral support, not receiving a reading. She had never met the medium, never spoken to him online or anything. A complete stranger. Apparently, halfway through her friend's reading, the medium stops and says, "I'm really sorry. I have to just stop for a second. I have another individual who is desperate for me to give your friend, Christina, a message. He's quite excited." Christina, confused, agrees to hear the message. The medium tells Christina, "The gentleman wants you to know that it was him that was checking up on your son. He also wants you to know that he was standing in the doorway listening and laughing along with Craig's friend." What? A complete, utter stranger to both me and Christina just verified something only me, her, and Craig knew about. That had happened months before. Ridiculous. It actually sounds unbelievable when I recount it, but it's 100% true. I don't know Christina to be a liar. She's not a drama kind of girl. We've never really talked about it since she told me. I have no reason why she would make something like that up, so I have to believe her. She is now happily married to Craig, with 2 more boys of their own. Declan is now 19, LOL. I've had one other instance of pretty much the exact same story with a different person a couple of years ago. We were talking about the person's dead relative, like with Christina and Craig. I got the same spine tingle, and my eyes kept being drawn to the door, like someone was leaning in on the door frame, listening to us. I told my friend and we laughed and said, "Hi, Gran." I don't think she believed me, but we weren't close, so I don't blame her. That one will never be verified, unfortunately. But it was the same. I know her grandmother was with us. I don't claim to be psychic in any way, but after this experience, it really has taught me to listen to my instincts, take note of how I'm feeling and anything that I notice change within myself, like my spine tingling or my eyes being drawn to the door. As I said, I'm not psychic, but I do think that all of us have the potential to be sensitive and open to experiencing weird things.
Rory, I believe you have a gift.
I'm in agreement with you, Jesse, but I don't think it's psychic. I think the gift Rory has is clear sensing, also known as clairsentience.
That's kind of similar to what the gift I have, which is clairvoyance. So clairvoyance is kind of like for me a sixth sense, and it's basically where I can like see the dead, but it's in my dreams where I can see the dead. Like I get a lot of signs on like what can happen in the future, and then like maybe weeks or days later it happens, and I'm just like, I dreamed about that before.
Yeah, anytime Jessie tells us something, gives us some kind of warning that we shouldn't go somewhere, we listen to her because of that sense that she has, and she's very sensitive to things. Especially like if we go to any paranormal investigations, which we do. Jessie and I are the only ones in our household that are very sensitive to certain areas if we are ghost hunting. Because we'll go with like her dad and her brother and a couple of other people in our crew. Like Jack will go with us, but we're the only ones that actually feel negative energies or positive energies. So, yeah, it's a really interesting thing. Rory, I recommend you read up on clear sensing. I feel it's an untapped gift you have. By learning and focusing more on it, you can further develop it, which I recommend that you do. There's a lot of people out there who would be comforted knowing their loved ones are still with them. Definitely look it up. Find a community of people that are similar or like you. So that way you have people to talk to. If you want to talk to Jesse and I, you're more than welcome to. We welcome you to that. You can DM us on our socials anytime or email us if you need someone to talk to about it. We completely believe that this is what you have, and we feel it's a gift. And maybe it's your calling because, like I said, a lot of people lose loved ones, and it's hard. It's hard when you love someone so much, a family member or, your husband, your wife, and then they're gone. And it's just so final. But people like you that can tell someone, hey, your grandfather or your grandmother or your mother or your father is there still watching over you, looking out for you, that is amazing. So if anyone is interested in giving Rory from TMB Paranormal a follow, I will link his socials in our show notes. So check out our show notes and give TMB Paranormal a follow. I truly recommend it. Me and Jesse were watching some videos they have on their YouTube. It's pretty amazing, and I think they're a great team.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the story.
So did I. Thank you so much, Rory, for writing in.
This episode is brought to you by
Sinister Brew Coffee isn't your ordinary cup of joe. It's a bold, horror-themed, small-batch coffee company owned by veterans who dare to take your taste buds on a dark and delicious journey.
From cosmic creations to cryptid-inspired blends, every roast comes with a sinister twist. Handcrafted for those who crave something truly unique.
It's not just coffee. It's an experience steeped in mystery, macabre storytelling, and flavors that are to die for.
Dare to step in the shadows and join the Sinister family at sinisterbrewcoffee.com,
where every cup reminds you that the darkness is delicious.
The last story I have is from... Oh, wait, Mom, isn't that the same person who wrote the first story you told?
What's the name?
Tony Shapiro.
Yep, that's the same person. That's so cool. We get 2 stories from Tony. I'm really looking forward to this now.
Unless Jack put the same story twice.
I don't make mistakes. It's not the same story.
Right. You're too perfect. You don't make mistakes. That's why we hired you, Jack.
A Malevolent Physical Attack by Tony Shapiro. Ever since I was a child, I've been sensitive to the paranormal. Unexplained phenomena, spectral visitation, and spiritual warnings have followed me throughout my life. A gift I inherited from my grandmother and mother. But it's a double-edged sword, often unsettling and terrifying.
Ain't that the truth? Jesse and I know that feeling all too well.
A little too much truth. In 2002, I moved from California to Louisiana to study jazz and blues. Toward the end of my first year there, I began noticing the recurring number sequences 555 and 55 everywhere, on clocks, billboards, and radios. These recurring number sequences had always preceded life-altering events. The first was the appearance of 555 or 55, and there was one other years later with 222. This time, the warning was clear. Something profound was about to happen, and I knew it. Less than a week later, my son called with devastating news. My mother had passed away on May 5th, the 5th month, 5th day. There it was, 55. The cause of her death was horrific, far too terrible to share.
I am so sorry for your loss, Tony.
Tony, I'm sending you positive vibes, love, and light your way. Now, Tony goes on to say, as the executor of her will, I had to hold myself together long enough to settle her estate. Leaving Louisiana behind, I returned to California to be with my sister Maria. After everything was settled, I purchased a small, charming house built in 1932. It was in pristine condition, with a large fenced yard for Bonnie, my collie dog. Though I'd been attuned to the paranormal energies since childhood, I felt no indication of anything unusual in the house until 6 years later. A terrifying night. One night, I decided to sleep in the original bedroom, a space adjacent to the living room that I rarely used for anything but storage. The house had only one small bathroom, accessible exclusively through that room, along with a single narrow closet tucked into the same space. Bonnie and I settled on makeshift beds, and everything was quiet, perhaps too quiet, since that room faced the street. But we were cozy enough and light filtered through the blinds from the street lamp. Eventually, we drifted off. Then it happened. I was violently yanked from the chase lounge without touching the floor and thrown across the room like a rag doll. My first thought was that an intruder had broken in, but I saw no one. Bonnie cried in pain as if she, too, was being attacked. Were there two assailants? I couldn't know. Not a word was spoken, other than my screaming and my dog whimpering. Desperately, I fought back, flailing at empty air. The force was immense, stronger than any human. The bedroom door, which didn't have a lock, refused to open no matter how hard I pulled. Suddenly, I was hurled into the bathroom, crashing against the wall with such a force that a ceramic towel holder shattered upon impact. A sharp, searing pain shot through my ribs as I gasped for air, struggling to breathe. Before I could cover, I was swished out of the bathroom and flung violently around the room once again. Then, as if it wasn't enough, I was thrown headlong into the closet, my skull striking against its hard interior. Still fighting to breathe, I was yanked back out by my ankles, helpless against the relentless force. It was a horrifying nightmare brought to life. At some point, I lost consciousness. But when I woke, the room was in shambles. I lay in a heap of debris, surrounded by the wreckage of the bedroom. My 150-pound drafting desk, a behemoth, lay overturned, its shattered frame a testament to the chaos. Furniture was broken, clothes were strewn everywhere, and anything fragile had been utterly destroyed. It was a miracle that neither Bonnie nor I had been crushed beneath it all. Bonnie circled the room, her cries filled with fear and desperation as she panted, waiting for me to wake. The devastation was overwhelming, but her presence reminded me that somehow we had both survived. I could hardly stand, my body trembling as I clung to the floor for support. The pain in my ribs was excruciating, and my head throbbed with an intensity that blurred my vision. My ears were ringing, and I was certain that I had a concussion. I needed to see a doctor, but how could I explain this? How could I tell anyone that my dog and I had been attacked by something we couldn't even see? Something that never spoke a single word. With every ounce of strength I could muster, I staggered to the door. This time it opened with ease. Bonnie bolted past me, desperate to escape, her paws scrambling to clear the room as quickly as possible. I couldn't follow her. Not yet. The effort of standing had drained me, and I collapsed onto a chair just outside my bedroom. My breathing was shallow, my ribs screaming with every intake of air. After a few moments, I managed to rise again, slowly making my way to the front door. With shaking hands, I opened it, and Bonnie dashed outside, her fear still palpable. She refused to ever cross the threshold of that room again.
Poor dog. Poor you. I'm so sorry that the two of you experienced that. That's horrible.
Yeah, this experience is literally right out of a horror movie. Like, Tony, I'm so sorry that you and your fur baby had experienced that. Like, I can't even imagine how much pain you felt. Anyway, Tony goes on to say the neighbor's revelation. Months later, a neighbor shared a chilling story. Years before I bought the house, she and a group of friends had performed dark rituals there and unspeakable practices. They had unleashed something malevolent and left it behind, careless of the consequences. I was horrified. The pieces fit. Whatever they had invited into the house had turned its wrath on me and Bonnie. The curse of that night clung to me, a shadow I could never escape. By 2017, I couldn't bear to live in the house any longer and sold it, hoping to leave the nightmares behind. The new owners tore down the wall of the bedroom, expanding the living room instead. Perhaps this disrupted whatever malevolent force once thrived there. Or perhaps the renovations done by the owner before me had awakened it. I'll never truly know. The memory of that night remains etched in my mind, a haunting reminder that some forces defy explanation, and some mysteries are better left undisturbed. The numbers that haunt me. In 2010, I woke 3 nights in a row to my clock displaying 2:22. Days later, on December 22, my sister Maria died of a heart attack at the age 55. Again, the numbers foretold tragedy. To this day, when I see these sequences, I'm reminded of the heartache of losing my family. Are they warnings or mere coincidences? I will never know, but the events of that night and the numbers that preceded my losses will torture me forever.
Whoa. Tony, your story was super scary. Now, I may have nightmares over this tonight.
As much as I love the first story, this one that I just read was terrifying, like chills coming down my spine. Like, wow, this is truly the story of nightmares.
I am so sorry, Tony, that you endured so much death in your family and terror in your home. Tony, I hope you're thriving now. I really do. And living life with smiles and sunny skies, as cliche as that might sound, you really deserve all the happiness there is out there.
Yeah, you truly deserve it. After what you went through, every day should be bright and happy. We wish you nothing but the best.
And please, Tony, email us a picture of your fur baby, Bonnie. She sounds super adorable. I would love to see her.
We will link Tony's social media accounts in our show notes for those of you who want to give them a follow.
Let's show some love and support for other social media platforms. Let's all do that today. So every time we do a podcast episode, me and Jesse, just look at our show notes and check out the people that we list on there, because we list people from whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube. We list people on every platform there is. Really cool people to follow. So you guys, when you see that, give them a follow too.
This episode is brought to you by...
Looking for a reputable notary republic at an affordable price? Well, look no further. Mrs. Ashley Lutchman is now taking appointments and accepting new clients. Jesse and I needed some documents to sign for our podcast.
We wanted someone with experience who was well known and didn't cost a fortune.
That's right. One of our good friends had worked with Mrs. Lutchman regarding some legal paperwork they needed notarized and recommended her to us.
She was professional, efficient, and affordable.
If you need important documents notarized, email Ashley Lutchman at ASHLEYLUTCHMAN@gmail.com. Ashley Lutchman can be found on Instagram and TikTok. I will link her socials and her email in our show notes.
Ashley Lutchman is remote and commissioned in the state of Florida.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have. Thanks for tuning in. If you have a spooky story and would like to have it read on air, please write us at milkshakesghosts@gmail.com. If you would like to follow our socials, we're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, Twitter, and Patreon.
If you would like to become a Patreon member, please visit patreon.com/milkshakes and ghosts. I will link it in the show notes along with all of our other socials.
Join Patreon for free monthly gifts and cool perks.
Let's give a shout out to our awesome, amazing Patreon members. Woo-hoo! Mr.E from Special Delivery Show. Check out the Special Delivery Show. His podcast takes interviews to a whole new level. I'd like to give a big shout out to Pods R Us. Pods R Us is a digital creator. They post weekly updated top 10 podcasts to listen to. Let Pods R Us help you find your next podcast. I will link their Instagram in our show notes. I want to give a big shout out to a good friend of ours on TikTok, PsychoFiend13. He gifted me a really cool shirt that defines my very existence, my soul, because it says weirdo at the top, which you know I'm proud to be. PsychoFiend13 posts really cool content and has weekly lives on TikTok with some really cool, amazing people, so go give him a follow. I will link his TikTok account in our show notes.
MNG VIP members also include Death Rock 1875, Electric 222, Claire Jones, John and Jenna, Mothman Prophecy 424, Vampires Rock 222, The Blonde Happenings with Kelly and Brenda, Witches for Life 1892, Bigfoot is Real 76, Bloodsucker 95, Nightmares 888, Witchy Talk 65, Dracula Rocks 22, TNA Ruben, Ramos 1972, Marie, Mary Ann, The Paranormal Duo, Lauren Joanne, Bruce All Spooky, Harmony, Joan of Arc, The Dark Side, Ronald H., Joe Santana, Myra Miles from Not So Spooky, Jada Kimura H., Tony S., Jean from The Truth Is Out There, Nadia and Edward, Carl and Becca, Mandy and Kenneth, Jules and Christina, Joel from The Paranormal Countdown, Alan, Zestar 1, Maxine, Tara Screams, Jules M., Victor and Myra, Haunted Canadian History, Melissa and Dan, The Truth Is Out There with Carly and Allison.
Woo! Jesse, take a breath, my word. Thank you all so much for being Patreon members. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Oh my god, I need to breathe. Okay. And now, remember, keep drinking milkshakes
And keep being spooky! It's time for bloopers!
But thinking this.
That's going in bloopers.
This is so weird. Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking? That's what he used to say. Did you not know that? When he was a wrestler, The Rock was a wrestler before he was on film.
Are you sure that's not something from the 1900s that he said?
Oh, just stop.
I mean, like, you're pretty old. I should say 1800s now.
All right, Jack, you need to cut all this out. Blooper time.
No, Jack, don't do that. Don't do it. Leave it in here.
Cut it, Jack.
No, look, I'm
Cut
the
it.
star of the show.
Hey,
You gotta listen to me.
I signed your papers, Jack.
It's spooky season, 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 spooky season.